The crown prince had a falling out with his eldest sister and, in a fit of pique, gave me the golden hairpin. The noble youth casually pointed and said, "Tomorrow, the empress is hosting a flower viewing banquet in the palace. Are you aware of it?" Suddenly, bullet comments appeared before my eyes. The crown prince clearly loves the female lead, yet he deliberately shows favor to the supporting female character. Unfortunately, the supporting female character lacks an omniscient perspective. Wasting her entire life in vain. That's exactly how it was in my previous life. The empress mistakenly identified me as the crown prince's beloved. On the day of the arranged marriage, I did not see the resentment in his eyes. I spent my entire life as a virtuous and obedient queen. Even after my elder sister married, I mediated and covered up their secret dealings. Even when I was dying after a difficult childbirth, the imperial household department was finalizing my posthumous title. He stood before my bed, and only bestowed a single word of grace in this life of mine, whether thunder or rain, all are the emperor's grace. Opening my eyes again, as the empress's fingertip moved toward me, I smiled and handed the golden hairpin back, one that crimson gold phoenix-tail hairpin hung in mid-air. My elder sister was displeased with the new tribute fabric, finding it tacky, and was currently in a huff with the 16-year-old Hu Jingji to put my elder sister in her place. He casually pointed a finger toward me in the corner. "Tomorrow at the Empress's palace banquet, if this gold hairpin is given to you, it means you are permitted to attend." With a careless lift of the chin, the tone was one of indifferent charity. "You wear it, that's how it was in the previous life for the glory of the family." I accepted it with overwhelming gratitude. The queen's gaze followed his finger, showing a hint of interest. Just waiting for me to express my gratitude, I lowered my eyes, and just as my hands were about to receive it, I changed direction. I took half a step back, bent my knees, and performed a deep bow. "I am unworthy of such grace, Your Majesty." Her voice was soft, yet resolute. Hu Jingji's hand froze mid-air. He likely never expected to be refused. With a flick of the wrist, she casually tossed the golden hairpin to the daughter of the Minister of Personnel beside me, whose eyes were filled with envy. "If you don't want it, then so be it." As the golden hairpin landed in her arms, Xu Yingnu was overjoyed. Hu Jingji no longer looked at me and turned away to drink his tea. I stood in the shadows, watching the golden hairpin sway in her hair. Finally, I no longer had to be his empress too. Once I stepped out of the main hall, the wind hit me, and I realized my back was already soaked through. The early autumn wind carried a chill, eerily reminiscent of those long, seemingly endless cold nights in the cunning palace of my past life. I once again recalled Hu Jingji's casual gaze at the banquet. In my previous life, after I accepted the golden hairpin, my elder sister married the heir of the Duke of Zhengguo in a fit of pique. Her presence still lingered everywhere in the palace. A fire broke out at the Lantern Festival. He instinctively shielded his elder sister, who had come to the palace for the banquet, holding her tightly in his arms, but forgot that I was also in the sea of flames. It wasn't until the fire was extinguished that I, pregnant and disheveled, crawled out of the ruins. He merely glanced at me indifferently and scolded, "You are the empress, how can you be so unsteady? Even with child, you lack the dignity of a queen, disturbing others for no reason." I endured the intense pain, bowing my head to confess my guilt. I couldn't help but recall our wedding night. When he lifted my veil, his eyes devoid of any joy, he said, "You are the one chosen by the Queen Mother. I will respect you as such." Back then, I was naive, believing that even the hardest ice in this world could eventually be warmed. I shielded him from the Empress Dowager's provocations, humbling myself before the old woman who held the reins of power, and even for the glory of this clan, I knelt until my knees were ruined in the winter cold. He saw it all, yet only remarked indifferently, "You've worked hard, my dear." Later, he ascended the throne as emperor, growing increasingly imposing and dignified. Yet, my eldest sister returned home as a widow at the palace banquet that day. I couldn't find him. Turning around the rockery, I saw him cornering my eldest sister against the wall. Now the supreme ruler of the land, his eyes and brows were filled with nothing but grievance and obsession. Two figures overlapped. The eldest sister was crying, and he was comforting her. I did not rush out to confront them. Instead, I retreated, dismissed the palace attendants around, and guarded this unspeakable secret for them that night, I sat alone in my bedchamber, laying out the pearls and jade he had bestowed upon me one by one, only to put them away again. The Emperor's favor is like flowing water. It only ever passed by my side, never pausing for me. Even later, when my elder sister remarried, he was so enraged that he wanted to depose the new son-in-law. The ministers tried to persuade him, but he refused to see anyone. It was still me, dragging my sick body, kneeling outside the imperial study for a whole night, explaining the stakes, begging him to endure for the sake of the country. He agreed through the window paper. I saw him smash his most cherished inkstone. He resented the Empress Dowager's control, despised the constraints of the court officials, and, by extension, loathed me, who always urged him to follow the rules. Thus, in this lifetime, I lived as a model empress. I have no sorrow or joy, no sense of self, only this heavy phoenix crown and ceremonial robes, weighing me down until I can hardly breathe. Because his harem was sparse, over 7 years, I gave birth to 4 sons and 2 daughters consecutively. The last time, I gave birth in the same year as my elder sister. The successive years of childbirth damaged my foundation, and I developed a condition of postpartum hemorrhage. The child lived only half a day, without even being given a name. I was unconscious for 3 days. My mother pleaded for me many times, and during that time, the Imperial Household Department presented the only century-old Lingji mushroom, but he bestowed it upon my elder sister, who was also weak after childbirth. I knew I wouldn't live much longer, so I made arrangements for my affairs. On the day when the oil was exhausted and the lamp was about to go out, heavy snow fell outside the window. He finally arrived, standing before my bed. His bright yellow figure was so dazzling. "My dear, do you have any last words for me?" Everything that needed to be said had already been said. It was the first time I had ever been this close to him, whether from weakness or exhaustion. I remained silent for a long time. He looked at me, his gaze still indifferent, and whispered in my ear the words that shattered my soul. "In this life, I have wronged you. If there is a next life, I will still promise you the position of empress." At that moment, I didn't even have the strength to cry. Looking back on my life, there are 3 things I have done the most. The first is drinking bowl after bowl of bitter fertility medicine, only to hear the imperial physician shake his head helplessly. The second was handing him a warm handkerchief when he woke up in the middle of the night, calling out his elder sister's name. The third was smiling and accepting the blame when the Empress Dowager scolded me as a hen that occupies the nest but doesn't lay eggs. But I no longer want to do any of it. As I took my last breath, what crossed my mind was, if there is a next life, I do not wish to know you again, nor to see you again, nor to be your Empress Xiaoyan once more. May we never meet again, and may you be carefree. Year after year 3, the deep autumn wind stung my eyes, pulling me forcefully from the stagnant pool of old dreams. The translucent words that had been lamenting my ill-fated destiny suddenly turned urgent and crimson, like deadly talismans. Holy crap, something's off. I remember the Crown Prince was supposed to go boating on the lake with the Shu family's young lady at this time to provoke the female lead. Stop, stop. The Crown Prince isn't looking at the Shu family's young lady, he's heading toward the supporting female character. Run. Why does his gaze look like he wants to devour someone? My heart suddenly skipped a beat, and a chill that seeped from deep within my bones made me instinctively tighten my grip on my sleeve. I looked up in a panic. Hu Jingji, who should have been drinking tea inside the hall and receiving everyone's flattery, had somehow appeared at the end of the corridor, standing tall and graceful just a few steps away. His gaze bore down heavily on me. He was still toying with that white jade thumb ring, over and over again. That was his habitual gesture when he was upset. Their eyes met. The air seemed to freeze. He seemed to want to say something, his thin lips slightly moving, and his foot just about to step forward. The old nanny beside him, unaware of the undercurrents, only thought I had broken the rules and whispered a reminder. "Second, miss. That is His Highness the Crown Prince. Step aside quickly." I woke up as if from a dream, hastily bowed, and turned to leave. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him mirror my movement, raising his hand as if to stop me. "Hu Jingji." A coquettish cry shattered the dead silence. The eldest sister, clad in a crimson silk dress, paid no heed to the sidelong glances of the palace attendants around her and rushed straight to him. She had run in such a hurry that her hair bun was slightly disheveled. She reached out and grabbed the sleeve he was about to lift, her tone both coquettish and haughty. "Why are you running away? I merely said the fabric color was a bit too dark, and you're already giving me a cold shoulder." I paused my steps slightly, yet dared not look back. According to memories from my past life, he should have been gently coaxing her. However, this time, Hu Jingji's figure stiffened. The young man's voice carried a hint of helplessness, along with an indulgence I had sought for a lifetime but never obtained. "When did I ever give you the cold shoulder? I just came out for some fresh air." "Then why did you ignore me earlier? And why did you give the gold hairpin to someone else?" "If I gave it away, then I gave it away. It's not like you wanted it anyway." Although Hu Jingji didn't say anything more, he also didn't shake off her hand. "What are you looking at?" The eldest sister noticed his distraction and followed his gaze. My heart tightened, and I was about to apologize. However, Hu Jingji withdrew his gaze first. He slowly led her back, as if the momentary lapse just now was merely an illusion. "Nothing, just saw a stray cat. Didn't you say the fabric was heavy? I'll have someone change it. Let's go back." I stood in the shadows of the corner, catching a glimpse of their overlapping figures out of the corner of my eye. One is indulgent and radiant. The other is noble and tolerant. I have never seen Hu Jingji like this before. It turns out, it's not that he is inherently cold and indifferent, or that he doesn't understand how to care for others. It's just that such gentleness has never been given to me. After returning home, I knelt in the main hall, expecting to face my mother's punishment. However, the anticipated scolding never came. Instead, a warm hand gently stroked the top of my head. My mother sighed, her eyes filled with a guilt I had never seen in her before. "It's just as well that you refused. Your elder sister excels in everything, and I always thought you were sensible and forbearing, so I overlooked that you too are just a child who can feel wronged." She helped me up and smoothed the stray hairs at my temples. "One person from our Kui family going to fill the palace is enough. I don't ask for immense wealth and honor. I only hope you can live in peace and happiness, without having to struggle like me and your elder sister." At that moment, my nose tingled with emotion. The grievances of 2 lifetimes finally turned into a single tear in my mother's warm palm. For the next day, the flower appreciation banquet proceeded as scheduled. The imperial garden was filled with the fragrance of perfumes and the shimmer of hair ornaments. I deliberately chose a plain dress and sat in the most inconspicuous corner, in the center of the hall. Xu Ying was wearing that gold phoenix-tail hairpin, basking in the flattery of the crowd. However, this flattery did not last long. The empress spoke in a calm tone. "Although the hairpin is beautifully designed, when worn by Miss Xu, whose family background is not particularly distinguished, it seems a bit too ostentatious and out of place." Xu Ying's face instantly turned pale. I lowered my head and took a sip of tea, feeling no ripples of emotion in my heart. That golden hairpin was originally crafted by the Imperial Household Department according to the regulations for the Crown Princess, so it was only natural for my elder sister to wear it if I were to accept it. Given my status as the second daughter of the Pei family, a family of wealth and prestige, it wouldn't be considered an overstep. However, in my previous life, I took on this hot potato and was reprimanded by the Empress for a full 3 years. Now, with nothing weighing on my mind, this tea tastes even sweeter than in my past life. Hu Jingji strode over as he took his seat. He very naturally cooled the cup of tea for his elder sister before pushing it in front of her. Envious murmurs rippled through the surrounding crowd. I lowered my gaze, no longer looking at this scene, focusing only on the plate of crab roe pastry in front of me. This crab roe pastry is exceptionally well made. In my previous life, my body was cold and weak, and the imperial physician strictly forbade me from eating anything cold. I looked at this pastry for a lifetime but never tasted a single bite. Now that my body is healthy, I naturally must try it. I picked up a piece and was about to put it into my mouth. "Wait," a cold, deep male voice suddenly pierced through the air. Hu Jingji was still holding the tea he had set aside for his elder sister, but his narrow phoenix eyes were fixed intently on me. To be precise, it was staring at the crab roe pastry on my chopsticks. My elder sister tugged at his sleeve in surprise. Your Highness, what's wrong? He seemed to snap back to reality. Nothing. I just remember that Miss Kui II has a delicate constitution. Since crab roe pastries are cold in nature, it would be better to remove them. The palace attendant approached with trepidation, removing the bowl and replacing it with a steaming bowl of red date and bird's nest soup. I sat rigidly in place. Whispers began to rise from all around. I dug my nails into my palms, forcing myself to stay calm in this lifetime. I have clearly never shown any signs of frailty in front of others, nor have I ever suffered from an illness that required dietary restrictions. The Empress's gaze swept over me, and she suddenly spoke. Your Highness is right. Kuya does look a bit thinner. Since she is frail, she should be betrothed sooner, so that someone can care for her and keep her warm. She paused, then shifted the topic. This humble one observes that the new top scholar from the GU family is quite suitable, gentle, courteous, and a good match for you, second daughter. What do you think? This is about to be an arranged marriage. The top scholar from the GU family comes from a respectable background and is an upright person. He is indeed a worthy match. My heart stirred, and I was about to rise to express my gratitude. I believe it is inappropriate, Your Majesty. Hu Jingji once again interrupted the conversation. He raised his head, his gaze passing over the crowd and landing directly on me. That GU family boy is so pedantic and dull-witted. How could he possibly be worthy of the Kui family's daughter? If Your Majesty wishes to arrange a marriage, why not ask Miss Kui if she already has someone else in her heart? I froze, my palms sweating in that moment. The messy handwriting appeared once again. How is Gu Tanhua? Pedantic. He's clearly quite innocent and reserved. In the future, he'll become a respected elder of 3 dynasties, famously devoted to his wife. I've read the extra chapters. The GU family has excellent family traditions. They only take concubines if there's no son by age 40. A character like the female supporting role would be very happy marrying into that family. Yes, I remember he was most wary of the Kui family's achievements overshadowing the ruler. Why is he meddling so much? Although he doesn't love the female supporting role, she's his elder sister's sister, he definitely can't just marry her off to some poor scholar. Hu Jingji looked at me deeply and said, Do you have someone you fancy? Kui Zitong, if you tell me, I won't say a word. All eyes are on me. I let out a heavy sigh. It was such a wonderful scene, but whenever Hu Jingji was added to it, it would turn into an embarrassing memory. Are you so easy to bully? If he asks, you must answer. A delicate voice chimed in. His elder sister had unknowingly let go of his sleeve. She lifted her head, her bright and beautiful face showing not a trace of fear. Has Your Highness had too much to drink today? My second sister has been raised in the inner chambers since childhood, a shy and reserved person who blushes at the sight of strangers. If you intimidate her like this and frighten her, my mother will surely punish me for not protecting her. As she spoke, she turned to me and gave a reassuring wink. In a past life I would rather not look back on. In truth, she never truly bullied me. When I caught a cold, she braved the snow to fetch a royal physician from the palace. When noble ladies mocked my shabby clothes, she splashed tea on one of them in public, stood with her hands on her hips, and retorted, Is my sister Kui Wn someone you can gossip about? She is like a blazing sun, radiant and brilliant. With the eldest sister's playful banter, the atmosphere in the hall finally eased. Even the Empress smiled and chided her. Soon after, the imperial decree was issued. A crystal-clear jade ruyi was placed into the eldest sister's hands. Kui Wn, the legitimate eldest daughter of the Kui family, gentle and virtuous, was appointed as the crown princess. The dust settled. I let out a long sigh of relief. The eldest sister blushed with shyness as she expressed her gratitude. Hu Jingji sat in the high seat, his expression dark and inscrutable. 5. The banquet ended, and I hurriedly followed the crowd toward the palace gates. Second miss, please wait, a sharp, high-pitched voice called out from behind. A servant rushed up, panting, holding an exquisite rosewood box in his hands, respectfully presented to me. Second miss, His Highness said he had just withdrawn your crab roe pastry, fearing it might harm your empty stomach. This is a freshly made red date and yam cake from the imperial kitchen, still warm, for you to have on the way. I recognized that attendant, who often followed Hua Jingji. If it was meant as compensation, it could have been given privately or in the name of my elder sister. He insists on making such a grand spectacle, practically putting me on the fire to roast around. The gazes are somewhat peculiar. Usually, His Highness is quite aloof. But now that he's just engaged, it's only natural for the crown prince to care for his future sister-in-law. That's fine. But in ancient times, there were plump beauties and slender ones, both favored together. The tongues of the masses can melt metal. I take a step back, avoiding the box. Her expression was distant and respectful. Please convey my gratitude to His Highness for his kindness. I have more important matters to attend to. Looking back, that crimson figure had already reached the end of the palace path. My elder sister walked extremely fast, her back straight, the hairpin on her head swaying violently. It was in this silence that we grew distant, eventually becoming like strangers. Without hesitation, I lifted my skirt and hurried after her, grabbing her arm without a word at the palace gate. Before she could utter that awkward "What are you doing here?" I leaned close to her ear, my tone firm yet tinged with a hint of teasing, saying only that His Highness had lost face today and was deliberately using me, this block of wood who doesn't understand romance, as a pretext to provoke someone into feeling jealous and concerned. My elder sister paused slightly in her steps, turning her head to give me a suspicious glance. My expression remained open and unguarded. Who cares about being jealous of that childish fool? Only someone as silly as you would be used by him for his little act. She finally broke into a smile through her tears. The last rays of the setting sun fell on her bright, beautiful profile. She affectionately linked arms with me and got into the carriage, chattering away about how she would have the kitchen make my favorite steamed milk pudding when we got back. The moment the carriage curtain fell, my elder sister was still softly humming an unknown tune beside me. Only I glanced back. Beneath the towering palace gate, dusk was gathering. Hua Jingji stood alone at the end of the long steps. He seemed to be still rubbing that white jade thumb ring in his hand. My heart skipped a beat, and I immediately drew the carriage curtain tightly shut. I thought, he must be looking at my elder sister in this lifetime. I have finally returned the fate that originally belonged to them, whole and complete. 6. I went straight to my mother's courtyard. Since I must distance myself, it is better to make a swift decision and cut off Hua Jingji's thoughts as soon as possible. The evening wind carried a few scattered petals and broken jade. Falling silently, I raised my head. Mother, your daughter wishes to seek a marriage proposal. No one knows a daughter better than her mother. She suddenly froze. The hand holding the teacup trembled, spilling a few drops of scalding tea. Zitong, mother knows your thoughts, but in the current situation, how can anything be settled so easily? Though she spoke in veiled terms, I understood her meaning clearly. The capital is in turmoil, and everyone is seeking to protect themselves. Hua Jingji's statement of having someone in his heart has kept away many noble families who were originally interested in me. My heart sank. No, there must still be a way. A flicker of pain and regret flashed in my mother's eyes. She paced back and forth in the room, her brow furrowing tighter and tighter. Suddenly, she stopped in her tracks, as if recalling some long-forgotten memory. It's not entirely without a solution. Her mother hurried to the rosewood cabinet, rummaged for a while, and pulled out an old jade pendant. She caressed the object, her expression somewhat dazed. When your father was demoted and left the capital in his early years, he made a prenatal marriage agreement with a close classmate. However, the fortunes of the two families later diverged. After giving birth to a son, the lady of that family passed away. Before her death, she sent a token through someone, saying that the two families had an agreement, but as their family had fallen into decline, she did not want to hold you back. That child is ambitious, saying that a man should establish himself before starting a family, counting the days. If he had been ambitious, his name should be on this year's spring examination list. I took the jade pendant. It felt warm and smooth in my hand, yet it seemed to weigh heavily. Mother, but where is that person now? What is his name? What if he didn't pass the exam, or if he's already married? The light in mother's eyes dimmed a little, and she let out a long sigh. Yes, in the vast sea of people, that person is from the Jiyu family of Jiangnan, known only by the single name Feng. Moreover, The path of imperial examinations is like 1,000 troops and horses crossing a single plank bridge. How could fame and success be so easily attained, if he fails the exam, or if he has long forgotten this old promise? Mother didn't say anything more. I, too, fell silent. This old promise, whose whereabouts are unknown, is ultimately like distant water that cannot quench immediate thirst. I tucked the jade pendant close to my body, temporarily setting aside these thoughts. After comforting my mother with a few words, I withdrew. 7. I had thought this night would be one of tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Perhaps I was too exhausted, for I ended up falling into a deep slumber. The next morning, I was awakened by a series of brisk knocks on the door. Second sister, the sun is already high in the sky. How can you still be sleeping in? My eldest sister pushed the door open and entered, dressed in a riding outfit of begonia red, which made her look even more heroic and radiant. She held 2 gilded invitations in her hand and, without a word, pulled me out from under the covers. Hurry up and get washed and dressed. There's a temple fair at the Great Xianghua Temple today. Mother has been keeping me busy preparing for my wedding, but she finally relented and allowed me to go out to fulfill a vow. Come with me, it'll be a good chance to relax. I wanted to decline, but seeing the bright sparkle in my elder sister's eyes, the words of refusal reached my lips only to be swallowed back down. Forget it. Once she marries into the deep courtyards of the palace, she will never again have the chance to roam so freely. I should spend some time with her. The Great Xianghua Temple is bustling with incense smoke and swarming with visitors. My elder sister claimed it was to fulfill a vow, but in truth, she went to seek a marriage fortune stick, hoping to see if her relationship with Hu Jingji was truly as perfect as the Jade Ruyi. Feeling a bit stifled, I retreated alone to the meditation hall at the back of the mountain for some fresh air. I found a stone bench to sit on, lost in thought as I gazed at the dappled shadows of the trees. Suddenly, I heard the faint sound of footsteps behind me, accompanied by the hushed conversation of 2 young monks. Is that the Tanhua of this year's imperial examination? Truly, he has an impressive demeanor. Yes, I heard that to avoid the nobles who try to snatch him as a son-in-law after the results are announced, he deliberately came to our back mountain to copy scriptures. Tanhua. My heart skipped a beat, and I instinctively wanted to stand up and avoid any impropriety, but I got up too hastily. My elbow bumped against the edge of the stone table, and my fingers loosened. Ding! The old jade pendant flew out of my hand, rolled a few times, and just stopped beside a pair of spotless black boots. I looked up in a panic. I saw a man in a blue robe, standing tall and straight like a bamboo, holding several scrolls of scriptures in his hands. He also seemed startled by the sudden sound. Lowering his gaze to look, the wind swept through the treetops, causing the ginkgo leaves to rustle and fall. He slowly crouched down and picked up the jade pendant. I took half a step back, creating a bit of distance between us. Young master, this is an old item that my daughter accidentally dropped. I hope you can return it. Upon hearing this, the person did not immediately hand it back as requested. He slowly straightened up, his gaze lingering on my face for a long moment. There seemed to be a hidden undercurrent in his eyes, but it was well concealed by his gentle smile. This jade has a warm and lustrous color, truly rare. The voice is clear and smooth, neither hurried nor slow, with not a hint of offense, yet it inexplicably stirs in me a sense of embarrassment, as if I've been seen through. He hands the object to me and says, "May I ask if the young lady is from the capital? I have just arrived in the capital and, at my mother's request, am looking for a certain household, but I have unfortunately lost my way." He paused, his gaze fixed intently on my eyes. I wonder, which way should I go to reach the residence of the Grand Master of the Imperial Banquets, Lord Kui? My fingers loosened, and the jade pendant nearly struck the blue stone slab with a clatter. 8. The long dormant translucent text before my eyes finally arrived belatedly, bursting into a dazzling display of fireworks. Ah, I'm hooked. This is no mere scholar, this is clearly a 1,000-year-old fox. My dear, did you see it? His gaze is practically weaving silk. I approve of this marriage. Hurry up and settle it, before that lunatic crown prince realizes what's happening. Lock it down tight. Those cheerful, dancing words felt like needles, pricking my fingertips with pain. Lock it down. If you lock it down with me, you're locking it down with the King of Hell himself. Seeing him today, his demeanor is extraordinary. Since you are an intelligent person, you should not take that path of no return. I looked at him coldly, my tone filled with a distance that kept others at arm's length. Although the Kui family's status is high, it is not something you, Lord Gu, should aspire to. Your family background is not prominent, so there is no need to wade into these troubled waters. Gu Changfeng was slightly taken aback, seemingly not expecting me to refuse so bluntly. Sir, you have studied diligently for 10 years, and now you have achieved success in the imperial examination, with a bright future ahead. If your career is ruined, or even your life lost because of this, I'm afraid your parents in the afterlife would find it hard to rest in peace. Please take this jade pendant back. I turned my head away, no longer looking into his clear, bright eyes. Just pretend you never saw me, and never found any Kui family. Please leave, Lord Gu. The wind swept through the treetops, stirring up a few withered, yellow leaves. A deathly silence enveloped the surroundings. I thought that, having spoken to this extent, any sensible person would know when to retreat. Are you, second miss, concerned about my future prospects? A soft chuckle broke the silence. Gu Changfeng not only did not retreat but instead took a step forward. He did not take back the jade pendant I had returned. Instead, he reattached it to his waist. He moved with such composure, as if my harsh words had just been the wind in his ears. Although I am new to the officialdom, I understand the importance of seeking advantage and avoiding harm. But how does the second young lady know that marrying you would be a dead end, rather than a way to break the impasse? 9. Break the impasse. I stared at this overly youthful face before me. None of the 3 dukes and 9 ministers, nor any of the provincial governors, matched this person. I thought for a long time and finally dredged up an old memory from the corner of my mind. It was a winter day in the 3rd year of Longqing, when heavy snow blocked the roads. The Empress Dowager intended to divert the disaster relief funds from Jiangnan to renovate the Palace of Longevity. All the civil and military officials in the court, in order to preserve their positions, pretended to be deaf and mute. Only a newly appointed 7th-rank censor, a reckless young man, knelt outside the Meridian Gate to remonstrate at the risk of his life. In the end, he was beaten to death in the snow by an imperial decree from the Empress Dowager. At that time, I was passing by in the Phoenix carriage and only had time to catch a glimpse of a shocking pool of red. Even when Hua Jingji later came to power and mentioned this person, he only gave a faint comment, utterly foolish. So, that unlucky fellow was Gu Changfeng. Suddenly, it all made sense. When I looked at this spirited and ambitious Tanhualang before me, my gaze couldn't help but carry a hint of pity and mockery. No wonder I racked my brains but couldn't recall any high-ranking official in the previous dynasty with the surname Gu. Oh, it turns out I died too early. Such a pedantic and upright unlucky fellow not only gets himself killed but also endangers others. Second sister, where are you? The clear call of the eldest sister just happened to pass through the woods. My heart eased, and without caring about the expression on the scholar's face behind me, I lifted my skirt and hurried out. Just as I stepped out of the meditation hall, I ran into my eldest sister, her face beaming with joy. She held a fortune slip in her hand, waving it proudly as if presenting a treasure. I've figured it out. I also drew a fortune slip for you. The master said it's the best of the best. Although there were some minor setbacks along the way, the outcome was a perfect and wonderful conclusion. As long as my elder sister feels it's good, then it's fine. I smiled and gently smoothed the hair at her temples. We've been out for quite some time now. Mother must be getting anxious. Let's head back. The setting sun stretched our 2 shadows very long. I didn't look back at the Zen temple again naturally. I also didn't see Gu Changfeng standing deep in the tree shadows, his gaze fixed on my departing figure, his eyes deep and unfathomable. Think my life is too short. 10. Stepping over the threshold, I saw the main hall brightly lit. My mother sat upright in the main seat, her face displaying a rare, relaxed smile. Seeing me return, she beckoned with her hand. You, child. Since you've already met the young master of the Gu family at the Great Xianghua Temple, why didn't you inform your mother when you returned to the mansion? My heart skipped a beat. and an absurd guess surged to my mind. Mother, what is this? Scholar Gu is a man of swift and decisive action. Mother picked up the marriage proposal, her eyes filled with admiration. You had barely left when he immediately sent an official matchmaker to our door, not only bringing the token from that year but also presenting the betrothal gift list. I stood frozen in place. Mother checked his birth date and time, and he spoke with such sincerity, his words showing great care for you. She thought that if we didn't act decisively now, there might be complications later. Mother has already agreed, the marriage certificates have been exchanged, so this engagement is now set in stone. That bright red marriage certificate stung my eyes painfully. Mother was still rambling about Jiyu Changfeng's sincerity, saying how earnest his words were, how he insisted it had to be me, but my ears were filled with a deafening roar in my past life. That censor Jiyu Changfeng, who died remonstrating, was beaten to death on that snowy day precisely because he was too upright and had no support. I felt the red paper was so hot it was almost unbearable to hold. Mother, daughter, there are still some things I haven't asked clearly. Ignoring my mother's stunned gaze, I grabbed my cloak and walked out. I hurried through the corridor, my heart in turmoil as dusk fell. The streets were already sparsely populated. Just as I stepped over the threshold, my footsteps abruptly halted. Jiyu Changfeng sat astride a white horse, his expression calm as he waited for me outside the gate but further ahead. The carriage curtain was half drawn, revealing a hand with distinct, prominent knuckles, idly turning that familiar white jade thumb ring. In that instant, the blood in my entire body froze. Hu Jingji, in front of everyone, under the watchful eyes of the crowd. What will he do to me today? He is only wearing a moon-white robe. If one ignores those unfathomably deep eyes, he looks like a gentle and refined young master from a noble family. I heard that Jiyu Tanhua came to propose marriage today. Are you in such a hurry to come out, second miss, to rush off for a secret rendezvous with your lover? Jiyu Changfeng's gaze fell upon him, his brow seeming to frost over. Hu Jingji looked at me, his voice lowered. Jiyu Changfeng, that's not a good name. Long winds send autumn geese for miles. To this we can drink high in the towers. The winds in the capital have always changed the fastest. If the foundation is unstable, a strong wind can break it. I heard a faint sigh behind me, followed by the sound of a carriage rumbling away. Only then did I realize that my back was already soaked in cold sweat. 11. The betrothal gifts from the Jiyu family flowed like a stream into the Kui residence. In addition to the customary gold, silver, and fine silks, there were also many untimely yet meticulously thought-out trinkets. But as I looked at that pair of lively wild geese, what appeared before my eyes was him in the previous life, stripped of his official robes amidst the swirling snowstorm. Turning my head, I saw my elder sister holding up the wedding dress. Her eyes curved into crescents as she asked me if it looked beautiful. This thought became a nightmare that very night. I fell into a fever. Dreams are filled with bizarre and fragmented scenes. One moment, it's Jiyu Changfeng. The next, it's my elder sister, disheveled and pointing at my nose, sharply questioning, Quizitong, since you have the chance to live a second life, why do you only care about saving yourself? You clearly knew it was a pit of fire, so why did you stand by and watch your elder sister jump into it? Why didn't you save me? Why didn't you save me? I woke up screaming, drenched in cold sweat, only to find a cool, gentle hand resting lightly on my forehead. The room was filled with the faint, lingering scent of medicine. My elder sister was not as shy or busy with wedding preparations as I had imagined. She was dressed in a plain undergarment, sitting by my bedside, with dark circles under her eyes. Clearly, having kept watch over me for a long time, she said she actually knew everything. In recent days, those memories slowly became clearer. She dreamed of a girl from a noble family, kind and gentle, who shielded her from all hardships but was suffocated by the weight of a phoenix crown and ceremonial robes. She said the Kui family must not fall, and someone had to step into the palace, that devouring place, to fill the void finally. She also said, I've looked into Jiyu Changfeng, he's a good man worth entrusting your life to. Just marry him with peace of mind. Don't listen to what others say. My elder sister left resolutely, her wedding dress blazing like fire. As if to burn away the injustices of this world, I want to kill someone. 12 Late at night, I stood alone in the courtyard, gazing at the pitch-black night sky. Those translucent characters still floated before my eyes. They were spectators from another world, aware of all the causes and effects within this book, since they could see me. Could I see them as well? I took a deep breath and, for the first time, spoke with utmost clarity into the void. I know you can see this. I don't want to die, nor do I want Jiyu Changfeng to die, and I certainly don't want my elder sister to suffer for my sake. Since you know the plot of the original story, can you tell me, where exactly is Hu Jingji's greatest weakness? The air froze for a moment. In the next instant, the previously sparse barrage suddenly surged wildly, with dense red text, almost blotting out the starry sky. Holy shit, the female supporting character is talking to us. Quick, 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 tell her. The Crown Prince is privately mining iron ore in Tongju to raise a private army. This is what the Emperor hates most. Evidence. We need evidence. The account book is hidden in the secret compartment of the rosewood carved shelf in the Eastern Palace study. Only the Crown Prince knows about it. Yes, besties, I just remembered, during this period, the Crown Prince was worried that the Emperor would regret his decision and pass the throne to the third prince. In the later part of the original story, after the female supporting character died, the male lead couldn't win the female lead's favor and became a tyrannical ruler. It was the third prince who rebelled and brought him down. Go get it now. I stared at those lines, committing them to memory in my heart. Then I nodded gently toward them. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Female supporting character, you originally had a very tragic life, but we couldn't stand such a female-abusing author, so of course we had to help you. Our eyes are eyes too. This is what a rebirth story should be like. The supporting female character is too clear-headed in this life. Actually, Lord Jiyu has broad shoulders and a narrow waist, and he also makes the supporting female character's heart race. She eats very well later on. I pondered thoughtfully. Jiyu Changfeng is upright and honest. If it were him, it should be good too. Returning to the room, I wrote a letter, a lengthy passage of over 100 words, only to conclude with, Jiyu Changfeng, are you willing to believe in me? 13. It had been only 3 days since my grand wedding with Jiyu Changfeng. Hu Jingyi had him imprisoned on charges of secretly engaging in fraud and leniently harboring wrongdoers. On the night Jiyu Changfeng was taken away, a heavy snow fell over the capital. He didn't let me see him off, leaving me only with a composed figure walking away. I sat beneath the red candles in the bridal chamber, my fingers gently tracing the half-carved wooden hairpin he had left on the table. It was an unfinished rabbit, its edges still a bit rough to the touch, yet polished to a warm, gentle glow. If you're afraid, just touch it. This is what he whispered in my ear before he left. 15 days later, a great upheaval occurred in the imperial court, yet Jiyu Changfeng, who should have been on trial at the Dali Temple, appeared in the Golden Luan Hall in full official attire. His expression solemn and dignified. Since he dared to send himself to the Dali Temple, it was because in his previous life, he knew that the chief of the Dali Temple was an upright and impartial solitary official. He also knew that the mining supervisor of Tongju, who had been silenced by the Crown Prince, was currently imprisoned in a secret dungeon. Jiyu Changfeng used himself as bait, not only emerging unscathed but also bringing back a tainted witness. Your subject, Jiyu Changfeng, accuses Crown Prince Hu Jingji of privately mining iron ore, hoarding troops for self-strengthening, and plotting rebellion. This declaration exploded like a thunderclap. Hu Jingji knelt before the hall, still stubbornly holding on. Father, this is a false accusation. Jiyu Changfeng is slandering me out of personal resentment. I am innocent, innocent. A clear and melodious voice rang out. The eldest sister held a sandalwood box and walked step by step up to the grand hall. She knelt before the Emperor, raising the account book high in her hands. As the Crown Princess, I dare not deceive your Majesty. These are the iron ore account records I found in the Eastern Palace. Every single entry bears the Crown Prince's private seal. Hu Jingji suddenly turned his head, his eyes wide with fury. Qui Wn, have you gone mad? I am your husband. The eldest sister didn't even spare him a glance. merely kowtowing heavily. Precisely because he is my husband, I cannot stand by and watch him commit such a grave mistake, bringing dishonor upon the Kui family and plunging the nation into turmoil. Both witnesses and evidence were present. The emperor flipped through the account book, his face turning ashen, before finally hurling it violently at Hu Jingji's face. Beast, I'm not dead yet. And you're already eager to rebel. 14. As he was dragged away, Hu Jingji struggled like a madman. He looked at no one, his gaze fixed on my figure standing far outside the hall. The escorting guards glanced at the emperor on the high platform and, seeing no obstruction, released their grip. Hu Jingji staggered and crawled a few steps toward me, trying to reach out to grab the hem of my skirt, but I coldly stepped back to avoid him. His hand froze in midair, his head tilted upward, tears mingling with dust streaming down his face, his voice hoarse and trembling. Zitong, you came to laugh at me, didn't you? I lowered my gaze to look at him, my expression calm and unruffled. I am here to send your highness on your final journey. Why? He suddenly broke down, roaring hoarsely and pointing toward the direction of the palace hall. Was it Jiyu Changfeng who forced you? Or that venomous woman Kui Wn? I did it all for you. Only by becoming emperor could I give you the best of everything in the world. Why would you join forces with outsiders to harm me? For me, I let out a light laugh, crouching down to meet his gaze at eye level, yet my eyes held nothing but icy mockery. Your highness keeps saying it's for me, yet in my past life, for the sake of my elder sister, you stood by and watched me struggle in the flames. In this life, for the sake of power, you're trying to kill my husband. Hu Jingji, your love is too filthy, utterly disgusting. Hu Jingji's pupils contracted sharply. As if this one sentence had shattered his last line of defense, he shook his head in panic, trying to grab my hand, his tone humble to the point of being in the dust. No, it's not like that. I know I was wrong, I truly regret it. Zitong, even if you've forgotten the kindness I showed you, think of our children, think of Chenga and Shuer. They are our eldest son and daughter. If I rise again, I will definitely. There is no Chenga or Shuer anymore. I interrupted him, my voice very soft. The one who gave birth to 4 sons and 2 daughters in 7 years, exhausting her body and ruining her foundation, whose last child died within half a day, and who in her previous life already died from a hemorrhage. It was you who intercepted the life-saving Lingji and killed her with your own hands. Now standing before you is Jiyu Changfeng's wife. Zitong, Zitong, he roared, tears and snot streaming down his face. Since your death, the entire nation has mourned for 3 days, and I have been unable to eat. Only then, realizing how terribly wrong I was, I exiled the imperial physician and the palace maids who attended your childbirth, and I exhausted all manpower and resources to build the grandest Nyanzi palace in the world for you. Have you seen it from the underworld? Have you forgotten all of it? I stood quietly, watching him from the distant palace steps. I understand that he has also been reborn. Perhaps what he said is true, but what can be done about it? The dead are already gone, leaving only the pain of loved ones and the joy of enemies. I didn't speak, just gently waved my hand at him. It was as if I were bidding farewell to an old friend, or as if I were brushing dust off my clothes. Farewell, Hu Jingji, in this lifetime. May you live to a ripe old age, filled with endless regret and loneliness. 15. 3 years later, spring arrives early in the Jiangnan region, with lush grass and singing orioles. Jiyu Changfeng was appointed as the prefect of this prosperous area in Jiangnan due to his achievements. I also left the capital, that place of trouble, to accompany him. I heard news from the capital that the deposed crown prince has gone mad. He talks to the wall every day, muttering to himself. One moment he shouts about wanting to be emperor, and the next he cries out my name, saying he wants to eat the Osmanthus cakes I make. My elder sister is now a favorite of the Empress Dowager. Although she lost her husband, she managed to preserve the Kui family by sacrificing her own kin for the greater good, and now lives comfortably and at ease in the palace. She has established schools for girls in many suburban counties. Occasionally teaching there herself, she sends letters from time to time, saying that the deposed crown prince is living a life worse than death in his confinement, because he remains trapped in the obsession of what if. Madam, What are you thinking about? A cloak, still warm from body heat, falls over her shoulders. Ji Chang holds a rabbit-shaped lantern in his hand, one he made himself during the Lantern Festival. It's a bit clumsy, yet utterly endearing. The bloodshed of the past life has finally been washed away by the misty rain of this one. I took the lamp, smiled at him, and grasped his outstretched hand. Nothing. I just feel that tonight's moonlight is exceptionally beautiful. Before my eyes, a few faint lines of bullet comments drifted by, carrying their final blessings. Woo-woo, it's the ending. We defeated the dog author. The supporting female character is finally happy. You are all sisters I've never met. This is the best ending. The scumbag lives in misery, with a green hat on his head, while the female lead lives a beautiful life. Lord Gu must always be good to our daughter. I smiled and silently said thank you in my heart. Then, I turned around, took Jiu Changfeng's hand, and walked into the warm, gentle night of Jiangnan, never looking back. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I have transmigrated into a palace maid who fans the emperor. When I realized this, I almost dropped the peacock feather fan on the emperor's head. Wow, I've become a nobody. I'm neither the female lead nor the supporting female character. At best, I'm just an extra. As long as you can endure, you'll survive. I gripped the fan handle tightly, my eyes fixed on the tips of my shoes, pretending to be an emotionless fan spirit. In the imperial study, the emperor was discussing matters with several ministers. The northern border war is intensifying, and the supply of provisions must keep up. The emperor's voice was deep and authoritative. I secretly glanced up to steal a look. The man seated behind the dragon desk appeared to be around 25 or 26 years old, with sharp eyebrows and starry eyes. His bright yellow dragon robe accentuated his noble and imposing aura. With looks like this in modern times, he would definitely be a top-tier celebrity. It's a pity he's a feudal patriarch who could take my life at any moment. Your Majesty, the Ministry of Revenue has allocated 300,000 taels of military pay, but the losses reported by the Ministry of War do not match the actual figures. There is suspicion of embezzlement. A middle-aged man dressed as a civil official stepped forward. Bullshit. A burly, bearded man with the appearance of a military officer beside him glared angrily. The frontline soldiers are fighting a bloody battle, and you dare to slander. Ahum. A clear, cold cough interrupted him. I looked toward the source of the sound and saw a young man, roughly 27 or 28 years old. He wore a deep purple official robe, with a face as fair as jade and an ethereal, aloof aura like an immortal. Wow, his looks are quite impressive too. I whistled in my heart. What brilliant insight does Minister Li have? The emperor looked toward that ethereal man, the young prime minister, Li Yi. My gaze couldn't help but wander. Suddenly, I noticed that the Minister of War walked with a strange posture, his right leg seeming a bit unsteady. Phut, I chuckled to myself. Isn't this the Minister of War who was caught by his wife hiding private money last night and was punished by kneeling on a washboard all night? His knees must still be bruised. In an instant, the imperial study became so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The emperor's hand, holding the brush, paused mid-air. The Prime Minister's jade thumb ring clinked against the teacup. The Minister of War's face instantly turned the color of pig liver. The general's mouth twitched as if he had been electrocuted. I remained completely unaware and continued gossiping in my mind. I heard the Minister of War's wife is the only daughter of the late Marquis of Zhunbei, highly skilled in martial arts. The minister won her heart back in the day with a love poem, but on the second day of their marriage, he was thrown to the ground by his wife with just one hand. TSK. This must be the legendary frail scholar, right? Crash. The Minister of War immediately knelt down, pressing his forehead to the ground. His voice trembling. Your Majesty, I. The emperor cleared his throat and said nonchalantly, my dear minister, since your legs are not in good condition, you may dispense with the formalities, continue with the matter of military pay. With the slightly deadpan expression of someone who's been up since 8 a.m., I mechanically fanned myself. I completely failed to notice that the Minister of War was looking at me as if he had seen a ghost. The atmosphere of the subsequent discussion became Extremely strange. Every time a minister spoke, my attention would involuntarily drift toward their private lives. The Minister of Revenue sneaked off to drink at a brothel again last night, and ended up getting caught red-handed by his wife. He still has nail marks on the back of his neck. The Minister of Revenue suddenly covered his neck and started stammering. The general may appear stern and imposing, but is actually terrified of his wife. His monthly allowance is only 5 taels of silver, and after his secret stash was discovered by his wife, he now has to run tabs even at the tavern. The general spat out his tea in shock. The Prime Minister appears aloof and restrained, but in reality, he loves writing romance novels. All of the overbearing prince falls for me variety. Click. The teacup in the Prime Minister's hand cracked slightly. I was so engrossed in the gossip that I completely failed to notice these anomalies. Still, I couldn't help but sigh inwardly. These men are all henpecked, but they're probably much better off than the emperor. After a long day handling court affairs, the emperor still has to go to the harem at night to accompany his consorts. He's quite a pitiful man. The emperor's vermilion brush drew a long red mark across the memorial. Finally, the council meeting came to an end. As the ministers withdrew, each of them had a strange expression on their face, especially the Minister of War, who practically fled in panic. "You, stay." The emperor suddenly pointed at me. My hand trembled, and the feather fan nearly slipped from my grasp. I inwardly wailed, "Oh no, did he notice I was distracted and is going to punish me?" "As you command, Your Highness." I knelt down trembling with fear. "Help. Am I going to die on my first day after transmigrating? Everyone else who transmigrates lives a life of luxury. So why am I so unlucky?" "Rise." The emperor's voice carried a hint of amusement. "What's your name?" "Your servant, Su Xiaoyu." I kept my head lowered, muttering to myself, "What's the point of asking for my name? Are you going to write it down in your little book and settle scores later?" "Woo-woo, I don't want to die yet, Su Xiaoyu." The emperor leisurely took a sip of tea. "From today onward, you will be solely responsible for attending to the ink and brush in the imperial presence." I was completely dumbfounded. What's going on? Wasn't I just a fan bearer? How did I suddenly get promoted? "What, are you unwilling?" The emperor raised an eyebrow. "This servant dares not." "This servant thanks your majesty for your great kindness." I quickly knelt down and kowtowed, but my mind was in turmoil. Oh my god, this plot is going in the wrong direction. I'm just a nobody. How did I suddenly become the emperor's favorite? Is it because I'm good at fanning? The corner of the emperor's mouth twitched slightly as he waved his hand and said, "You may leave. Return to your duties tomorrow. Your servant takes her leave." I bowed and retreated from the imperial study. As soon as I stepped out, my legs went weak and I had to lean against the wall. That scared me to death. I patted my chest to calm myself down, but at least I managed to keep my life. By the way, the emperor is really handsome, but his gaze is a bit intimidating. When he looked at me, I felt like he could see right through me. Ha ha ha, how is that possible? I shook my head and hopped along toward the servants' quarters, completely unaware that behind me, by the window of the imperial study, the emperor was thoughtfully watching my retreating figure. The next day, I arrived at the imperial study on time to report. I stood at the door, my heart in turmoil. This promotion came so suddenly. Could there be some conspiracy behind it? I lowered my head and stared at the tips of my shoes. Could it be that the emperor has taken a fancy to me? I was startled by my own wild imagination and quickly shook my head. "Wake up, Su Xiaoyu. You're just a fan-wielding palace maid with no looks and no talent. What could the emperor possibly see in you, that you doze off while fanning him? Come in." The emperor's voice came from the study. I pushed the door open quietly and entered without looking up. The emperor said, "Grind the ink." "Yes." I quickly stood aside and began grinding the ink out of the corner of my eye. I caught a glimpse of the contents of the memorial. It was about the war in the northern frontier. "What does Minister Li think about the war in the northern frontier?" the emperor asked. Prime Minister Li Yi still maintained his usual aloof and ethereal demeanor, like an immortal descended to the mortal realm. "Your Majesty, I believe the urgent matter at hand is to investigate the whereabouts of the military funds," Li Yi said with a cupped hand salute. "The Ministry of War and the Ministry of Revenue each have their own claims. So we need to send someone to conduct a thorough investigation. The emperor nodded thoughtfully, then suddenly glanced at me. What? Do you think I dare not recklessly discuss state affairs? I quickly lowered my head. In my mind, I was frantically complaining. Why ask me? I'm just here to grind ink. Could the emperor be testing me? I'm doomed. It's fine. I grant you permission to speak. The emperor set down his vermilion brush and looked at me with great interest. I swallowed hard. This servant thinks what Minister Li said is right. Oh, the emperor raised an eyebrow. Then who do you think would be suitable to send for the investigation? This question is getting more and more dangerous. My forehead began to sweat. This servant thinks. My eyes darted around nervously. Just then, I saw the Minister of Revenue, Wang, walk in. As soon as I saw him, a piece of information automatically popped into my mind. The personal treasury of the Minister of Revenue is hidden under his concubine's chamber pot, wrapped in oil paper, and it's a full 5,000 taels, TSK, with so much embezzled silver. Does the emperor know? Cough. The emperor suddenly began to cough violently. Li Yi's eyes were filled with shock, and he couldn't help but glance at the Minister of Revenue out of the corner of his eye. I am completely bewildered. Your Majesty, are you all right? It's nothing. The emperor waved his hand, a hint of amusement flashing in his eyes. Minister Wang, you've come at just the right time. I was just discussing the matter of military pay verification with Minister Li. Minister Wang bowed and said, Your Majesty, this matter is of great importance. I am willing to personally oversee it. Okay, the emperor nodded, then suddenly changed the subject. I heard that Minister Wang has been short on funds recently. Minister Wang was taken aback. I am managing. Oh really? The emperor wore a half smile. Then why did you use the private treasury? And in such a place? Crash. Minister Wang immediately knelt down, his face deathly pale. Why, Your Majesty, please see clearly. Your servant. I widened my eyes and thought, wow, how did the emperor know? What's wrong with Minister Wang? The emperor feigned concern. I was just asking casually. Minister Wang is unwell. Help him down to rest. Minister Wang was so frightened that he lost all composure. Your Majesty, I am willing to contribute my private treasury to the state treasury for the benefit of the nation. I only beg Your Majesty to spare me this once, my dear Minister. You are thoughtful. I grant your request. The emperor paused for a moment before adding, before depositing into the national treasury, remember to wash it clean before sending it over. Minister Wang lay prostrate on the ground, feeling as if he had narrowly escaped death. Your servant thanks Your Majesty for your great mercy. Awake now, you may withdraw. The guard Wang didn't move for a long time. He was so frightened that his legs went weak and he couldn't stand up. The emperor gave a meaningful glance. 2 guards immediately walked over, lifted the limp Minister Wang, and carried him out. I watched his retreating figure and muttered to myself, how does His Majesty know so clearly? Could it be that he has people spying on his ministers? The more I think about it, the more terrifying it becomes. The imperial study fell into an eerie silence. The emperor and Li Yi exchanged a glance. Then the emperor asked me, Su Xiaoyu, do you have any family members, Your Majesty? My parents passed away long ago. I only have an older brother who is serving in the military at the border. I answered honestly, but in my heart, I thought, checking my family background, could it be that he really intends to take me as a consort? Please no, I haven't even been in love yet. Border pass. The emperor's eyes lit up. Which border pass? Liangzhu in the northern frontier. I replied, suddenly remembering something. By the way, in my brother's last letter, he mentioned that the rice they eat there is mixed with sand, and the soldiers are full of complaints. I abruptly covered my mouth and looked at the emperor in terror. Oh no, can such words be spoken so casually? Will I be accused of spreading rumors? The emperor and Prime Minister Li Yi's eyes lit up simultaneously. The emperor pressed further. Did your brother specify which specific unit it was? It was the Liangzhu garrison. I stammered out the words, mourning in her heart. Brother, your sister is sorry. I might have to drag you into trouble and get you investigated. Fine, very well. The emperor smiled and turned to Li Yi. Minister Li, Immediately send someone to secretly investigate the Liangju garrison, focusing on checking the military pay. Li Yi cupped his hands. I will go and handle it right away. Before leaving, he gave me a meaningful glance. It sent shivers down my spine. Your Majesty, did this humble servant say something wrong? I asked cautiously. On the contrary. The Emperor seemed to be in a very good mood. You have rendered a great service. Someone, reward Su Xiaoyu with 20 taels of silver. I stared blankly as I received the reward, completely bewildered. What's going on? I just mentioned my brother's letter. How did that count as a great service? Could it be that the Emperor is just a naive and simple-minded person? The corner of the Emperor's mouth twitched, pretending not to hear my inner thoughts as he continued reviewing the memorials. In the following days, I gradually adapted to the work of serving in the imperial presence. The Emperor seemed particularly fond of asking for my opinion, from matters of state to trivial affairs of the inner palace. What do you think? I oscillate between being cautious with my words and speaking my mind freely, constantly fearing that one wrong word could cost me my head. That morning, all civil and military officials gathered in the Grand Hall. As a palace maid serving in the Emperor's presence, I stood beside him, responsible for fanning him. Your Majesty, the envoy from the northern frontier will arrive in 3 days to discuss the marriage alliance. The Minister of Rights stepped forward to report. The Emperor frowned. Does the king of the northern frontier wish to marry a princess of our dynasty? Indeed. The king of the northern frontier is willing to offer 500 war horses as a betrothal gift to marry Princess Yong'an. The court was immediately abuzz with discussion. Princess Yong'an is the emperor's only younger sister. Just 16 years old and deeply cherished. Upon hearing this news, a flood of information automatically popped into my mind. The king of the northern frontier is over 60, has married 6 wives who all died, and is rumored to have unusual preferences. Moreover, this marriage alliance is a facade. The real purpose is to spy on our court's strengths and weaknesses. And get this, the chief envoy and deputy envoy in the diplomatic mission are married to sisters, and they've been cheating on each other. Ha ha ha. Truly, the uglier they are, the wilder they play. I was completely immersed in the joy of gossiping, completely unaware that the entire court had fallen silent. Lately, I've noticed that my work has become exceptionally easy. The Emperor's attitude toward me could almost be described as amiable. Even the ministers nod in greeting when they see me. Even the usually haughty chief eunuch began to greet me with a smile. As I ground ink for the Emperor, I thought happily to myself, do they particularly appreciate my honest and dutiful character? The tip of the Emperor's brush paused slightly, and the corner of his mouth twitched. Your Majesty, Minister of War Zhong requests an audience. The eunuch announced. Admit him. The Emperor said without looking up. Minister of War, Lord Zhong, walked in, and when he bowed, his right leg was noticeably unsteady. I curiously took a couple more glances. A string of information automatically popped into my mind. Lord Zhong was caught hiding his private savings by his wife again yesterday. This time, he was punished by kneeling on an abacus, and his knees are covered in small indentations. Phut! I quickly covered my mouth. Lord Zhong glared at me fiercely. I immediately lowered my gaze, focusing on my nose and heart. My dear minister, since your legs are unwell, I grant you a seat. A flicker of amusement flashed in the Emperor's eyes. Lord Zhong's face flushed red. Thank you for your Majesty's concern. I merely sprained myself while practicing martial arts last night. The Emperor raised an eyebrow. Oh, has Lady Zhong's martial arts improved again? Lord Zhong nearly slipped from his chair. Why, your Majesty must be joking. I was inwardly overjoyed. Ha ha ha, this is hilarious. So even the Emperor knows Lord Zhong is afraid of his wife. It seems Lord Zhong's glorious deeds have spread throughout the court. The Emperor cleared his throat lightly. What brings you here, Minister Zhong? Minister Zhong wiped the sweat from his forehead. Your Majesty, the Northern Border delegation has arrived at the guest house, but I have discovered that their entourage includes over 20 more people than declared. I fear this may be inappropriate. The Emperor pondered thoughtfully. Who are these extra individuals? They claim to be merchants, but each one is robust and strong, unlike ordinary traders, Minister Zhong said with a furrowed brow. I instinctively looked at Minister Zhong and started enjoying the drama. These people are assassins sent by the king of the northern frontier, disguised as a merchant caravan to infiltrate the capital. Their goal is to create chaos if the negotiations break down. The leader is a man with a scar on his face, staying in the second room on the west side of the post house. Their weapons are hidden in a secret compartment of the cargo cart. Ahem. The emperor suddenly coughed, frightened. I quickly handed him tea. Your Majesty, please take care of your health. Minister Zhong said with a concerned expression. The emperor waved his hand. It's nothing, Minister Zhong. Focus on monitoring the post house, and also, check if there is anything suspicious about their cargo. Minister Zhong nodded repeatedly. I will obey your command. After Minister Zhong received the order and withdrew, the emperor suddenly asked me, Su Xiaoyu, what do you think the northern border envoy intends to do? I looked utterly bewildered. This servant does not understand matters of state. No matter, let's just chat. The emperor set down his vermilion brush and looked at me with great interest. I forced myself to say, your servant thinks they might have ill intentions. What makes you think that? The emperor pressed. Just intuition, I said cautiously, but in his heart, he thought. The targets of those death warriors seem to be Princess Yongan. They want to kidnap the princess to force the emperor to make concessions. The emperor's eyes suddenly turned cold. I understand. Summon Prime Minister Li and the Grand General. Before long, Li Yi and the Grand General arrived together. The emperor briefly explained his suspicion that the Northern Border's marriage alliance had ulterior motives. The Northern Border rebels have some nerve. The general was furious. I request permission to lead the Imperial Guards to surround the embassy. Li Yi, however, calmly said, we cannot, without solid evidence. Surrounding the embassy would violate diplomatic etiquette. It's better to play along with their scheme and lure the snake out of its hole. The emperor nodded. Minister Li speaks wisely. Strengthen the defense of the inner palace and dispatch capable personnel to infiltrate the post house, keeping a close watch on those merchants. I listened intently from the side, thinking to myself, the Prime Minister is indeed clever. Those assassins plan to strike 2 days from now when the princess tours the garden. If we alert them prematurely, they will surely change their plans, making it even harder to guard against. A sharp gleam flashed in the emperor's eyes. The safety of the women in the inner palace must not be compromised in the slightest. Li Yi understood. I will make arrangements in advance. The Grand General thumped his chest in assurance. This old minister will personally lead the team, ensuring those northern border bandits never return. After the discussion concluded, the two ministers took their leave. The emperor pondered for a moment. Su Xiaoyu. In 2 days, you will accompany Princess Yongan for a garden tour. Slave. I pointed at my own nose, my face full of disbelief. What, unwilling? The emperor raised an eyebrow. No. This slave obeys the command. I quickly bowed in salute, but my mind was in turmoil. Why me? I'm just a fan waver. The emperor doesn't even pay overtime. Sigh. The emperor's expression turned rather peculiar, as if he were holding back laughter or perhaps feeling helpless. Dismissed. I take my leave. Your Majesty. I withdrew from the imperial study, my mind filled with confusion, unaware of the emperor's sigh as he massaged his forehead in frustration. 2 days later, in the imperial garden, I followed behind Princess Yongan with trepidation. The princess was only 16 years old, with bright eyes and white teeth, lively and adorable, completely without airs. Xiaoyu, look how beautifully these peonies are blooming. The princess excitedly took my hand. It's even more splendid than last year for the Empress Dowager's birthday. The princess speaks the truth. I forced a smile and chimed in. My eyes, however, kept scanning the surroundings. My thoughts are with the warriors of the northern frontier. Those warriors must be hiding behind the rockery. I focused my attention on the direction of the rockery. To my surprise, my vision actually penetrated through the rockery, revealing 5 burly men hiding behind it, each armed with weapons. The leader has a scarred face, with a poisoned dagger tucked at his waist. They plan to strike when the princess passes the pavilion. Oh my god, this is so intense. Just as I was thinking about how to alert the guards, I suddenly heard a furious shout, assassins. In an instant, dozens of guards swarmed in from all directions, surrounding the rockery. The general, clad in full armor, stood imposingly at the forefront. Northern border rebels, surrender at once. 5 death warriors, realizing their cover was blown, roared and charged out desperately. The scene was extremely chaotic. I quickly shielded the princess and stepped back. "Don't be afraid, little fish." The princess actually comforted me instead. "Big brother has already made all the arrangements." Sure enough, in less than the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, all 5 assassins were subdued. The general dragged the scar-faced man over. "Speak, who sent you?" The scar-faced man let out a sinister laugh, then suddenly foamed at the mouth and collapsed to the ground. "Damn it, he took poison." The general hurriedly grabbed his chin, but it was already too late. I watched from afar, my heart filled with lingering fear. Fortunately, the emperor was well prepared, otherwise the princess would have been in danger. Wait, how did the emperor know? Is the intelligence network that impressive? Is there anything in this palace he doesn't know about? After the crisis was resolved, the emperor quickly walked over to check on the princess's safety. After confirming that his sister was unharmed, he gave me a meaningful glance. "Su Xiaoyu has rendered meritorious service in protecting the emperor and is hereby rewarded with 100 taels of silver and promoted to imperial attendant." I opened my mouth wide. "This humble servant thanks your majesty for your great kindness." When I left the imperial garden, I was still in a daze. So I got promoted just like that. What rank is the imperial attendant? How much does the salary increase? Is there any annual leave? Behind her, the emperor and several ministers exchanged a knowing glance. That evening, in my new residence, a small, independent courtyard, I happily counted the reward silver, 100 taels. That's enough to buy so many delicious treats. I was so happy I rolled around on the bed. It seems that in this imperial palace, as long as you do your job honestly, there is still a promising future. I decided to go to the imperial kitchen tomorrow to get a roast chicken to celebrate. At this moment, in the imperial study, the emperor was holding a small meeting with a few trusted ministers. "Your Majesty, Miss Su's abilities seem to have grown stronger again." Li Yi pondered and said, "Today, she was even able to accurately point out the number of assassins and their hiding places." The Grand General stroked his beard. "This little girl is quite interesting. I believe she can be well cultivated and used for military intelligence gathering in the future." "Not appropriate." The emperor shook his head. "Her abilities are uncontrollable. If they become known to enemy nations, she will surely face fatal danger." "Then what does your majesty mean?" Li Yi tentatively asked. A flicker of profound meaning passed through the emperor's eyes. "For now, we will maintain the status quo. Since she is unaware that we can hear her thoughts, she will not take deliberate precautions. As for the northern border delegation, I have my own plans." The ministers exchanged glances and responded in unison. "Your servants obey the decree." After being promoted to the chief attendant in the imperial presence, my duties expanded from simply fanning to serving ink and brushes, organizing memorials, and occasionally brewing tea for the emperor. Although the workload increased, so did the benefits. My monthly salary tripled, and I was given my own small courtyard and a personal palace maid. The speed of this promotion and salary increase is almost like riding a rocket, I thought to myself with delight. I refilled the emperor's teacup. The emperor was reviewing memorials. The corners of his mouth lifted for a moment, but he quickly resumed his dignified expression. "Your Majesty, the envoy from the northern frontier is requesting an audience outside the hall." The chief eunuch, Wang Dequan, bowed and reported. The emperor nodded. "Summon him." I quickly straightened my posture, assuming the dignified demeanor befitting a court attendant. Before long, 3 envoys from the northern frontier strode into the hall. Leading them was the bearded Ashina Hun. Following behind were the deputy envoy and the scribe. "Greetings to His Majesty, the Emperor of Great Liang." Ashina Hun saluted, his voice booming. It made my ears ring. At ease, the emperor set down his vermilion brush, his gaze sharp. "What is the esteemed envoy's consideration?" Ashina Hun's expression was not pleasant. "Your Majesty, 1,000 war horses are truly too many. My king can offer at most 800. I quietly observed them. I couldn't help but start speculating. Ashina Hun actually has a secret decree allowing him to agree to 1,000 horses, but he wants to bargain to save 200 for his own pockets. The deputy envoy is calculating how to split the spoils with his brother-in-law. That official has poison hidden in his belt, planning to put it in the emperor's tea. The emperor's face darkened. If the esteemed envoy has no sincerity, then please return. Attendants, see the guest out. Wait, Ashina Hun grew anxious. Your Majesty, everything can be discussed. The emperor sneered. 1,000 war horses, not one less, plus 5 border trading posts. Otherwise, there's nothing to discuss. Ashina Hun wiped the sweat from his forehead. Allow us to deliberate further. No need. The emperor suddenly slammed the table and stood up. Do you truly believe, esteemed envoy, that I am unaware of your secret plot to kidnap Princess Yongan, unaware of your hidden poison, unaware of your intentions to line your own pockets? The faces of the 3 envoys instantly turned deathly pale, especially the scribe, whose hand unconsciously reached toward his belt. Guards. The emperor gave the order. The guards immediately rushed in and surrounded the 3 men. Search him. Sure enough, a packet of white powder was found hidden in the official's belt. After examination by the imperial physician, it was confirmed to be a slow-acting lethal poison. Ashina Hun's legs gave way, and he knelt down. Your Majesty, please see clearly. This matter was certainly not ordered by my king. It must be this servant acting on his own. The emperor snorted coldly. If that is the case, I shall clean house on behalf of the king of the northern frontier. Drag him away and behead him. As the document was being dragged out, he struggled frantically. Your Excellency, save me. It was clearly you who told me to gag him, Ashina Hun shouted sternly. He then turned to the emperor with an apologetic smile. Your Majesty, this slave is talking nonsense. It cannot be taken seriously. The emperor couldn't be bothered to deal with him and said directly, 1,000 war horses, 5 trading posts, plus 100,000 taels of silver as compensation for frightening Princess Yongan. Agree, and we sign the peace treaty today. Refuse, and I will immediately send troops to the northern frontier. I stood by, utterly dumbfounded. Wow, the emperor drives such a hard bargain, but the northern frontier is indeed in the wrong. They deserve to be fleeced. Ashina Hun's face turned ashen. Exchanging a few glances with the deputy envoy, he finally gritted his teeth and said, this foreign envoy obeys the decree. Minister Li, draft the treaty. The emperor sat back on the dragon throne with satisfaction. Your Majesty, this foreign envoy will set off to return to my country tomorrow. Ashina Hun bowed in salute. Regarding the terms of the peace treaty, my king will certainly fulfill them as scheduled. The emperor nodded slightly. Let it be so. After the court session ended, just as I was about to slip away, I was suddenly stopped by Chancellor Li Yi. Su Shangyi. Li Yi still had that ethereal, immortal-like demeanor. I've heard your chess skills are quite impressive. May I have the honor of a game? I was completely dumbfounded. This humble servant does not know how to play chess. Prime Minister Li's chess skills are exceptional. Palace attendant Su, why not give it a try? The emperor suddenly interjected, his eyes holding a meaning I couldn't decipher. I had no choice but to brace myself and agree. Then, this humble servant will make a fool of herself. The board is set. I sat down with trepidation. I thought, oh no, I can't even play Gomoku well. Am I just waiting to be crushed? However, after the game began, I realized Li Yi wasn't as formidable as I had imagined, or perhaps he's deliberately going easy on me. Strange, isn't Li Xiong known as the chess sage? I thought to myself as I made my move. Why does it feel like he's guiding my moves? I secretly glanced at Li Yi just then. I met his deep gaze and quickly lowered my head in fright. How has Su Shangyi been lately? Li Yi's voice was as clear and cold as jade. I'm doing well, Prime Minister Li, I replied stiffly. My mind was racing. Is Prime Minister Li interested in me? Not in that way, but more like research. There's a notebook in his study that records my— Wait, what does it record about me? Just as I was about to investigate further, Li Yi suddenly stood up. It's getting late. We'll continue another day. After saying that, he left with a carefree air. He left me alone, staring blankly at the chessboard. What's going on? I scratched my head. Why do all these important people act so mysteriously? While putting away the chess pieces, I suddenly noticed a small booklet had fallen under Li Yi's seat. Curiously picked it up. On the cover was written records of Sue's words and deeds. I opened it and took a look. Good heavens, it was densely filled with records of what I said and when I said it. Damn it, my hand trembled, and the booklet fell to the ground. Could it be that Li Xiong secretly admires me? Otherwise, why would he only record what I've said? Hiss. No, I'm being too narcissistic. Ha ha ha. Could it be that he suspects me of being disloyal? This terrifying thought made me feel as if I had fallen into an icy abyss, but upon second thought, it seemed impossible. I must be overthinking it. This booklet is probably, a surveillance log. After all, I'm currently the Emperor's favorite. I comforted myself and put the booklet back in its place, decided to act as if nothing had happened. Returning to the Imperial study, the Emperor was reviewing memorials. I tiptoed over to grind the ink, but my mind was still preoccupied with the matter of that booklet. What are you thinking about? The Emperor suddenly asked. Oh, nothing. I shook my head in a fluster, but in my heart, I thought, I can't possibly say I suspect Li Xiong has a crush on me, right? That would be way too narcissistic. The Emperor's brush paused for a moment, then he continued writing as if nothing had happened. You have a day off tomorrow. You may leave the palace and stroll around. Really? My eyes lit up. Thank you, Your Majesty. Take the guards I assigned with you. The Emperor added. I gladly accepted. As you command. Going out with bodyguards, I also get to experience the joy of being wealthy. On the day off, early in the morning, I changed into casual clothes, tucked my money pouch, and prepared to go out of the palace for a stroll. Just as I reached the palace gate, 2 guards came forward to meet me. Imperial Attendant Su, we are under orders to protect you. The leading guard clasped his hands in salute. He was tall and looked very reassuring. Thank you both for your trouble. What he thought was, ha ha ha, I, Su Xiaoyu, am now someone with status. I really want to laugh out loud 3 times with my hands on my hips. But unfortunately, I can't even shake my legs in triumph. What a pity. The captain of the guard twitched at the corner of his mouth but quickly regained his composure. Where would Lady Su wish to go? Let's head to the East Market first, I said with great enthusiasm. It's been so long since I arrived, and I haven't truly experienced the bustling prosperity of the capital yet. The East Market is bustling with noise and excitement, with all kinds of shops lined up one after another. I'm like a little bird freed from its cage, looking around here and touching things there. I completely forgot that there were 2 bodyguards following behind me. Miss, would you like to take a look at our fine rouge and powder? A middle-aged woman dressed in vibrant attire greeted me warmly. I leaned closer to the counter, my eyes drawn to the delicate porcelain boxes. The woman lowered her voice and asked, Are you from the palace, miss? My hand trembled, and I almost dropped the rouge box. How did you know? These old eyes of mine are the best at reading people, the woman said with a smile. Young lady, you are so lovely. You must be serving the nobility in the palace, right? I became alert and instinctively started to gossip. This woman is a spy from the northern frontier. She's been lurking outside the palace, trying to turn palace staff into informants. She plans to recruit me and have me poison the Emperor's food. I gasped in shock and quickly took 2 steps back. Sorry, I just remembered I have something to do. After saying that, I turned and left. The 2 guards immediately followed. The woman called out from behind, Don't rush off, miss. I have even better goods here. Without looking back, I quickened my pace and didn't dare stop to catch my breath until I had turned 2 streets. Chief Su, what's wrong? The captain of the guards asked with concern. Nothing. I just suddenly don't feel like buying it anymore. The captain of the guards glanced thoughtfully in the direction of the rouge shop and didn't ask any more questions after that. I lost all interest in shopping, my mind completely occupied with the matter of that northern border spy. Should I tell the Emperor? I pondered anxiously. But if I speak up, how do I explain how I know she's a spy? What if the Emperor asks me about the source of my information? I was just worrying when a tempting aroma wafted by. Looking up, I saw it was a roasted chicken shop. Inside, freshly roasted, golden and crispy chickens were hanging, making my mouth water. Never mind, I'll fill my stomach first. I waved my hand grandly. Boss, bring me a roast chicken. While sitting at a small roadside table and eating heartily, I noticed a young man who looked like a scholar across the street, constantly stealing glances at me. Upon closer inspection, I saw a general's residence token hanging from his waist. Isn't this someone from the general's residence? I curiously read the information. So it turns out the general's only daughter has gone missing, and people from the residence have been sent out to search everywhere. This scholar is the young lady's tutor, who has been secretly in love with her for a long time and firmly believes she was kidnapped rather than eloped. I gnawed on a chicken leg, feeling emotional inside. The general's daughter was indeed kidnapped and is being held in an abandoned manor in the western suburbs. The kidnappers are planning to demand a ransom. The captain of the guard suddenly coughed. Sir, are you all right? It's nothing. The captain of the guard wiped his mouth and suddenly stood up. Please wait here for a moment, Lady Shangi, I will be right back. After saying this, he hurried away, leaving me and another guard looking at each other in confusion. After eating and drinking my fill, I visited a few more silk shops and jewelry stores, buying some small trinkets. On the way back to the palace, the captain of the guards finally caught up with us. His face unable to conceal his joy. Did something good happen, sir? I asked curiously. Nothing. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl upward. It's just, I helped a friend resolve a troublesome matter. I didn't think much of it, humming a little tune as I boarded the carriage back to the palace. As soon as I returned to my courtyard, a young eunuch came up to greet me. Lady Su, His Majesty summons you to the imperial study. Now, I looked at the sky. It's almost time for the evening meal, the young eunuch whispered. His Majesty said it's urgent, something to do with the Grand General. My heart skipped a beat. I still haven't figured out how to break the news about the general's daughter to the Emperor. Arriving at the imperial study, I saw that both the Emperor and the Grand General were present. Both of them had joyful expressions on their faces. Your humble servant pays respects to your Majesty and the Grand General. I performed the proper ceremonial bow. At ease, the Emperor's tone was gentle. Su Xiaoyu, you have rendered great service today. I looked utterly bewildered. This humble servant merely left the palace today and did nothing at all. The general stepped forward excitedly. My daughter has been found, thanks to the guard by your side. I blinked. What happened? The Emperor explained. The guard captain discovered some clues and led a team to the western suburbs, where they found the kidnapped general's daughter in an abandoned estate. Perfect. I was genuinely happy. Are you all right, miss? She was a bit frightened, but she's fine. The general's eyes were red. Chief Steward Su, I owe you a favor. I waved my hands repeatedly. No. It was all the credit of the guard. I didn't do anything. There's no need for you to be modest. The Emperor said meaningfully. If it weren't for you being so alert with the guards, how could this matter have been resolved so smoothly? I always feel like the Emperor's words carry hidden meanings, but I can't quite put my finger on what's wrong. After the general expressed his gratitude repeatedly and withdrew, the Emperor asked me, did you enjoy your time outside the palace today? We've been doing just fine. I suddenly remembered that northern border spy and hesitated whether to report it. What's wrong? Having trouble? The Emperor keenly noticed my hesitation. No, it's just that there's a rouge shop in the East Market, and the shopkeeper seems a bit strange. I said vaguely, I don't think she's a legitimate businesswoman. The Emperor's eyes immediately sharpened. Oh, what seems suspicious? It's just a feeling. She seems particularly interested in matters of the palace. The Emperor nodded thoughtfully. I will have someone investigate. Do you remember the location of the shop? I remember. I quickly described the situation. I breathed a sigh of relief. This way, even if that woman gets caught, it won't implicate me. Su Xiaoyu. The Emperor suddenly spoke with a serious expression. Do you know that although the northern border delegation has left the capital, they left behind many hidden agents? My heart skipped a beat. I didn't know. These hidden agents are specifically tasked with turning palace servants against us, with ill intentions. The Emperor stared at me intently. If you encounter any suspicious individuals, you must report it immediately. Your servant obeys the command. I replied with my head lowered, but in my heart, I thought, this is bad, this is bad. Could the emperor already know about that woman who approached me? But if he knew, why wouldn't he just ask me directly? Just as I was lost in wild thoughts, the emperor suddenly changed the subject. In 3 days, it will be the Empress Dowager's birthday. You will attend to her. The emperor waved his hand. Dismissed. This servant takes her leave. I withdrew from the imperial study, my mind filled with confusion. I couldn't understand at all why the emperor was treating me with such special regard. 3 days later, the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet. I stood behind the emperor, trembling with fear, serving wine in my newly made dress. The grand hall was filled with princes and nobles. The dazzling display of jewels and finery made my eyes blur. Is that Chief Steward Su? I heard he is highly favored by the emperor. He looks so ordinary. How did he catch the emperor's eye? The constant whispers made me feel as if needles were pricking my back. The Empress Dowager was an elegant and dignified elderly woman who appeared kind and amiable, but her gaze was extremely sharp when her eyes swept over me. I nearly dropped the wine pot. Your Majesty, is this the girl you mentioned? The Empress Dowager asked. Indeed, Chief Steward Su is clever and quick-witted. I believe you will like her. Mother, oh, the Empress Dowager beckoned me to come forward. Come, let me have a good look at you. My legs were trembling uncontrollably. Your humble servant pays respects to her Majesty the Empress Dowager. May your Majesty's fortune be as boundless as the East Sea and your life as enduring as the southern mountains. Your words are quite sweet, the Empress Dowager asked with a smile. I heard you helped the Grand General find his daughter. I dare not take credit. I quickly denied it. It was all the merit of the head guard. I did nothing. The Empress Dowager lowered her voice. Then do you know if the rumors are true that Vice Minister Zhao of the Ministry of Rights keeps a mistress and has an illegitimate child? I widened my eyes, momentarily at a loss for how to respond. Mother, the emperor helplessly interjected. The Empress Dowager laughed heartily. Enough, enough, I was just curious. After saying that, she even winked at me. I was completely bewildered as I stepped back to my original position. I was mentally complaining like crazy. What's going on? Is Her Majesty the Empress Dowager this gossipy too? But Minister Zhao really does have a mistress, living in West City's Osmanthus Lane. That child is already 5 years old and looks exactly like him. Ahem. The emperor suddenly coughed. Several nearby ministers also covered their mouths. The Empress Dowager remained composed behind the screen, her expression unreadable, but her eyes sparkled with the satisfaction of having caught some juicy gossip. Halfway through the birthday banquet, a palace maid approached the Empress Dowager with a plate of pastries. I happened to glance at her and immediately tensed up. This palace maid is a spy from the northern frontier. She has poisoned that plate of pastries. I was so anxious that I broke out in a sweat. Just as the Empress Dowager was about to take the pastry without a second thought, I rushed forward in a single stride. Your Majesty, please wait. The entire hall instantly fell silent, and everyone looked at me. The palace maid's hand trembled, nearly dropping the tray. This servant meant to say, I had a sudden inspiration. This pastry looks absolutely delicious. May this humble servant taste it first for Her Highness. A glint flashed in the Empress Dowager's eyes as she smiled and said, What a greedy little girl. Permission granted. I took the pastry and pretended to taste it. In reality, I concealed it with my sleeve and slipped it into my sleeve pouch. I pretended to chew it a bit and said, It's delicious, but it seems like there's too much sugar. Didn't Your Majesty say recently that you should eat less sweets? The Empress Dowager understood the hint and waved her hand, saying, In that case, take it away. The palace maid turned pale and hurriedly retreated. The emperor secretly gave a meaningful glance. The captain of the Imperial Guards quietly followed him out after the birthday banquet. The emperor summoned me to the side hall. You have rendered another service today. I don't understand. I pretended to be clueless. The imperial physician has confirmed it is indeed poisonous. I gasped sharply. That palace maid, she has already confessed. She is a spy from the northern frontier. The emperor said coldly. She wants to poison the Empress Dowager and stir up internal strife in Daliang. I patted my chest and said, Fortunately, we discovered it. The emperor looked at me with deliberate seriousness and asked, How did you know the pastries were poisoned? I saw her looking flustered and found it suspicious. The emperor did not press further. Enough. Go back and rest. Thank you, your majesty. As if granted a great pardon, I quickly bowed and withdrew. Stepping out of the hall, I let out a long sigh of relief. Close call. I almost gave myself away. But why didn't the emperor press further? Isn't he curious? I shook my head and decided not to dwell on it. Anyway, as long as I keep my life, why should I care about the reason? Returning to my quarters, as soon as I pushed the door open, I saw an exquisite food box placed on the table. I opened it and saw a variety of pastries. There was also a note, a reward for you, so you won't have to fight for food next time. I scratched my head. Why is the emperor rewarding me with pastries? Who did I fight with? I snatched the Empress Dowager's pastries today. What does the emperor mean? Is he mocking me for being greedy? I picked up a piece of Osmanthus cake and put it in my mouth. The sweet taste instantly made me forget all my worries. Who cares? I thought to myself with delight. With food, drinks, and a salary, this little life is pretty good, isn't it? Outside the window, a dark figure quietly slipped away, swiftly heading in the direction of the imperial study. After hearing the report, the emperor's lips curled into a faint smile. That girl is quite easy to appease. My position in the palace has become increasingly peculiar. Nominally, I am still the chief court attendant, but in reality, the treatment I receive from the emperor is almost on par with that of a concubine. I moved into the tranquil elegance pavilion. My living space doubled in size, and my monthly allowance increased twofold. There are 2 young maidservants specifically assigned to attend to me. I was just eating rose pastries when a young maidservant rushed in, flustered and panicked. Chief Steward Sue, it's terrible. The northern border has launched an attack. Phut. I spat out a mouthful of tea. The king of the northern frontier amassed his troops and launched a surprise attack on the border. The court was immediately thrown into an uproar. The war faction and the peace faction were locked in a fierce dispute. I was urgently summoned to the imperial study. The emperor was discussing strategies with several key ministers, and everyone's expressions were grave. Your Majesty, the northern frontier is advancing fiercely, having already breached 2 of our border cities. The general pointed at the map, his beard trembling with anger. I, your old servant, request to lead the expedition immediately. Li Yi, however, shook his head. The northern frontier has come prepared this time. If we engage them rashly, we risk heavy losses. It would be better to fortify our defenses first and simultaneously send an envoy to negotiate for peace. The Grand General slammed the table and stood up. Those barbarians are already riding roughshod over us. What's the use of negotiating? As the 2 were about to start arguing, the emperor raised his hand to stop them. Then his gaze fell upon me. Su Xiaoyu, what do you think? I was completely baffled. This servant doesn't understand military matters. It's fine. Just share your thoughts. The emperor's tone was gentle, but his eyes left no room for refusal. I forced myself to say, your servant thinks the sudden declaration of war by the northern frontier king must have a reason, right? Could it be that something has gone wrong within their country? The emperor's eyes lit up. Go on, it's just, I heard that the northern frontier has been suffering from a drought this year, leading to poor harvests, I said cautiously. Then he thought to himself, so it turns out that the 3rd prince, the most favored by the king of Beijiang, has contracted a strange illness, and even the imperial physicians are at a loss. The king of Beijiang started this war to seize the divine physicians from the Great Liang Imperial Hospital to treat him. TSK. While some wage war for a beauty, this king of Beijiang is going all out for his precious son. But is the king of Beijiang just being stubborn? Why not just ask the emperor to lend him the physicians? Could it be that the emperor is too stingy to lend them? That doesn't seem right. It feels like the king of Beijiang has ulterior motives. The emperor took a deep breath. Am I just a cheapskate in your heart? The ministers broke out in a cold sweat. Is this something they should be hearing? The emperor flew into a rage, and then he raged a little. Minister Li, immediately send someone to investigate the recent situation of the northern frontier king's children and see if there is internal strife. 3 days later, the scout brought back the news. The emperor slammed the table. Issue an edict. dispatch the head of the imperial hospital to the northern frontier to treat the third prince, and order the border garrison to strengthen their defenses. Your Majesty is wise. The ministers praised in unison. I felt delighted inside. I've survived another day without becoming a slave of a fallen nation. A month later, the northern border troops withdrew. The head of the Imperial Medical Institute worked wonders and cured the third prince. The king of the northern frontier was immensely grateful. Not only did he fulfill all the terms of the previous treaty, but he also gifted an additional 500 fine horses. At the victory banquet, the emperor publicly announced, Lady Sue, the court lady, has repeatedly achieved great merits. She is hereby specially enfeoffed as the Lady of Anley County, granted a mansion, and 1,000 taels of gold. My jaw dropped in shock. No way, no way, how did I, a mere palace maid, suddenly become a noble? Aren't you going to thank me for this grace? The emperor raised an eyebrow at me. Your servant, your subject, thanks your majesty for this great kindness. I quickly knelt down, but in my heart, I was thinking, oh no, giving me such a high status, could the next step be taking me as a consort? Please, no. The corner of the emperor's mouth twitched, but in the end, he said nothing. After moving into the county princess manor, my life underwent a dramatic change. Nominally, I am still the emperor's chief attendant, but in reality, I no longer need to enter the palace for duty every day. The emperor has granted me the privilege to enter the palace at any time. He also issued an order, make me listen to the ministers' conversations every day. How dare I? Even if I dared, I don't have the ability, so I just go through the motions every day. Then I automatically spill the tea I've heard, pretending it's something I found out. The Empress Dowager treats me as if I were her own daughter. She summons me to the palace every other day. Anley, I heard the Minister of War has been hiding his private savings again, the Empress Dowager asked while cracking melon seeds. I swallowed a grape. Your Majesty, Minister Zhong hid the money this time in the hollowed-out layers of the Analects of Confucius, a full 200 taels. Unfortunately, not a single coin was left. It was all confiscated, and he doesn't even have his usual pocket money anymore. It's quite pitiful. The Empress Dowager was so delighted she slapped her thigh, seeing Her Majesty so happy. I couldn't help but feel pleased too. Every time I visit the Empress Dowager, I return with a pile of rewards. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, 10 years have passed. Over these 10 years, I've helped the court resolve many troubles with my sharp intuition and precise judgment. Though it's really just my knack for gossip, in the end, the northern frontier became our ally. The Xiongnu in the west were also defeated and dared not invade again. The state of Liang was prosperous and peaceful, with the people living and working in contentment. I, Su Xiaoyu, became the most unique noble in the history of Liang. I held no real power, but my status was transcendent. I do not participate in court affairs, but the emperor always seeks my opinion on matters. Your Highness, Prime Minister Li requests an audience, the maid announced softly. Please show him in. I set down the melon seeds in my hand. Li walked in. He still had that ethereal, immortal-like appearance, but a few more fine lines had appeared at the corners of his eyes. Lord Li, what brings you here today? I asked with a smile. Li bowed and then took a booklet out of his sleeve. This is the new script I have written. Please take a look, County Princess. I took it. The cover reads, The Overbearing Minister falls for me. Phut, I couldn't help but laugh. Minister Li, you still enjoy writing scripts so much? Li's old face flushed. I wrote it just for fun when I had nothing to do. If the county princess finds it inappropriate, very appropriate, I quickly put the script away. I love reading the scripts written by Lord Li the most. After seeing Li off, I received a few more guests. Some came to inquire about their colleagues' private affairs, while others came to ask for my help in putting in a good word. Surprisingly, there were even those who came to seek advice on relationship issues. County Princess, my husband has been coming home late recently. Do you think he might be having an affair? The general's wife asked with concern. I almost laughed out loud. Don't worry, madam. The general is secretly preparing a surprise for your 40th birthday. He bought a piece of land in the western suburbs and is personally building a summer retreat for you. Really? The general's wife's worry turned to joy. That old fool. Should I pretend I don't know? Absolutely necessary. I nodded with great seriousness. After seeing off the last guest, I stretched and prepared to take a walk in the garden. Just as I reached the corridor, I saw the emperor. Oh, I should call him the retired emperor now. He abdicated the throne to the crown prince last year and has since lived a leisurely life as the retired emperor. Your Majesty, what brings you here? I asked in surprise. I have some free time and thought I'd come to play chess with you. The retired emperor shook the chessboard in his hand. Over the past 10 years, the emperor has changed the most. He is no longer the stern and imposing ruler he once was. Instead, he has become amiable and fond of laughter. He especially enjoys visiting my county manor. You just can't stand to lose. I muttered but still obediently set up the chessboard. Nonsense. When have I ever been a sore loser? The Grand Emperor glared. Last time, after losing 3 games in a row, you insisted that I had stolen your chess pieces. I mercilessly exposed his shortcomings. The Grand Emperor's face flushed red. That was clearly you who stole it. Where's the evidence? I could feel it. We continued bickering while playing chess, as natural as every day in the past 10 years. Halfway through the game, the Grand Emperor suddenly asked, Xiao Yu, you're 35 this year, aren't you? I stared at the chessboard and casually replied, have you never thought about starting a family? The Grand Emperor asked casually. My hand trembled, and a chess piece fell onto the board. Your Majesty, why do you ask this so suddenly? I'm just curious. The Grand Emperor looked at me with a burning gaze. You know perfectly well that as long as you nod, countless people would line up to marry you. I pouted and said, forget it, I'm perfectly fine on my own. Marriage is such a hassle, having to serve a husband and raise children. It's nothing like now, where I can eat when I want, play when I want, and watch all the excitement every day. You, the Grand Emperor shook his head helplessly. Are you planning to live your whole life like this? What's wrong with that? I asked with a grin. I am the happiest county princess in Great Liang, with status, wealth, and freedom. The Grand Emperor laughed heartily. Fine, fine, do as you please. We played a few more rounds of chess until dusk fell. The Grand Emperor finally rose to take his leave. As I saw him to the door, he suddenly turned back. Xiao Yu, have you truly never considered entering the palace? I froze. This was the first time in 10 years he had asked so directly. I smiled and said, Your Majesty, someone like me is not suited for life within the palace walls. The Grand Emperor quietly looked at me for a while, then nodded gently. I understand. In truth, I knew that over the past 10 years, the Emperor had been waiting for me to change my mind, but I know even better that once I enter the palace, I can no longer be the carefree Su Xiaoyu. This is still better eating melons for a lifetime, bringing joy to you, me, and everyone. Spring passed and autumn came, and many more years went by. I have achieved my dream. I've been eating melons all my life and never married. I witnessed Li Yi's stories. From the overbearing minister falls for me to the cold general's little darling wife. I witnessed the minister of war and his wife, from their constant bickering to growing old together. I witnessed the general's daughter marrying that devoted schoolteacher, and the Grand Emperor, until the very last moment of his life, maintained the habit of coming to my county manor to play chess. On the day of his passing, he left me a secret decree: County Mistress Anli, Su Xiaoyu, may enter any place within the imperial palace, and no one is permitted to obstruct her. This was his final gift to me, the right to continue indulging in gossip. The new emperor has shown me, the old county princess who was specially favored by the late emperor, great courtesy and respect. Grandma Anli, please tell us quickly, did the concubine of the Minister of Revenue's household really push the principal wife into the well? The newly entered palace concubines gathered around me, their eyes sparkling. I slowly cracked sunflower seeds, smiling like the Maitreya Buddha. Well, that's a long story. The afterglow of the sunset bathed the glazed tiles of the imperial palace. My melon-eating friends have changed once again after hearing the 2 stories above. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.